But look, life is going to be harder along the road, and they should brace for it. I am worried that this president and his budget will not help us the way they told us.
Adam, you promised to run a lean government. What has happened?
Yes, I think that it's right for me to use your platform to congratulate the finance minister for giving us an excellent budget, delivering a budget that gives hope, a budget that addresses the fundamental issues with our economy, and a budget that emphasizes on fiscal discipline, because the fiscal indiscipline accounts for the debt, the ballooning debts, and the challenges that we are confronted with today. In the last 8 years, we saw how government under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his appointees never prioritized the needs of Ghanaians in their budgets. They were good at coming out with nice and beautiful names for budgets, Asempah budget, whatever budget, blah, blah, blah budget, and all of that led us into the ditch, a deep hole that we are trying to bring ourselves out of, because the country's economy was run aground, and the economy was so challenged that a friend of mine will tell you it was a neck-pressing economy, to the extent that even they, in the majority then, the NPP MPs, couldn't take it any longer. And so they were pushing for the removal of the finance minister. 98 of them actually signed that petition asking for the finance minister to be removed. So it is surprising that all of a sudden, it is as though the NPP has the men who could run the economy, had beautiful ideas about how the economy should be run, and they never practice or they never put that into use in their 8 years. After their defeat, and we have started on a very good note, they want to poke their nose into how the economy is run. And many of the issues, I allow me, you are allowed you to. And many of the issues that they are raising are not even true. And so we'll get into the argument. The first one is the issue of a lean government. Indeed, President Mahama and the NDC is running a lean and an efficient government. President Mahama promised to run the government with not more than 60 ministers. We have seen the Obolo-sized governments before. There was a point the president kept appointing. There was no limit. And they told us that because of the challenges we were confronted with, they needed more men. But again, if you look at the economy and how they performed, it tells you that you don't need numbers to run an effective government. What you need is the quality of the men that you appoint. At the point, they had 126. Then when Ghanaians complained and all of that, it came down to 88 at a point. We are running, currently we are 56, 4 more to go. By the end of today or by the end of this week, the other 4 deputies will also be nominated. And so we are running a lean government, and there is no debate about that. Again, the issue of presidential staffers. Under President Akufo-Addo, 391 presidential staffers were appointed to the presidency as political appointments. The presidency had over 1,800 workers, but 391 were appointed directly by the president as presidential staffers. When we talk about the 1,000 plus cleaners, technical assistants, and technical people, these are civil servants. But I'm talking about 391 political appointments. As we speak today, President Mahama has appointed only 30. And he's given us a promise that there will be a significant cut in the numbers. And so even when he decides to appoint more, they will not get anywhere close to the 391 that the NPP ran with. And so when they talk about running a lean government, these are the facts. We are running a lean and efficient government, because what we have been able to achieve in just 2 months with these numbers, it tells you that we are on the right trajectory.
What have you achieved?
We are on the right trajectory. Now, they are talking about budgetary allocations to the presidency. You see, there is a book that I will recommend to every leader, every young politician. The title is How to Lie with Statistics. I think that the NPP members, especially their MPs like John Darko and Co, who speak to the issues of the economy, may have mastered the art of telling lies, malicious lies with the statistics. No, I'm talking with respect to the economy. Such that I will give you. No, you see, I allowed you to say so many things about President Mahama.
He says he feels offended.
You feel offended. No, if you are offended that I said
you calling me a liar.
No, I mean you have mastered the art of telling lies with the figures.
No, he didn't say you're lying.
I didn't say you're lying. I said you and the minority, you have mastered the art. For example, they are talking about the budgetary allocations to the office of the president. Now, it is important to understand that when we say office of government machinery or the office of the president, we're not talking about President Mahama's office as an individual. This budgetary allocation we're talking about includes all the agencies that were under the ministries that have been scrapped. And so, for example, Ministry of Information is no more. We now have a Minister of State in charge of government communications. So what it means is that the Information Services Department, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, and all these other agencies that were under the Ministry of Information today will be under the office of the president for budgetary purposes. And so it is important for you to look at the budget from that angle. And then you juxtapose it to how much was the allocation in the 2024 budget to the Ministry of Information as compared to the amount of money budgeted for the Office of Government Communication. That is where you see whether or not we are running a more efficient government and we are running on less budget. So when you put all these numbers together and you create the impression as though the presidency is the one receiving, or the office of the president alone is receiving all that amount, you may be, telling lies with the figures or trying to maliciously interpret the figures. Are we running a leaner government? Yes. Are we running a more efficient government? Yes. Why? Because if we had the Ministry of Information as a ministry, Honorable Felix Obosu-Kwakye would have had a deputy, and there would have been chief, and in fact, he said the staff of the ministry before it was dissolved stood at about 70 plus people. But now all you see is that Felix and Shamima, Hajia Shamima, and 5 others who are helping them to do the work of government. So the rest of the civil servants there have been assigned to other agencies and other ministries. So what you do, it means that the office is running on a leaner budget. And so we are running a lean and a more efficient government. But you see, Moro, there are some aspects of the conversation on the budget that all of us must pay key attention to. The first one is the issue of fiscal discipline. Under the NPP, we saw how the public purse was abused, such that the people who promised to protect the public purse did not only abuse the content of the public purse, but they actually left with the entire purse. There was no purse at all. In that public purse, 58 billion was allocated for the National Cathedral project. How productive is that project? 58 billion. In that public purse, we saw how government under President Akufo-Addo mismanaged our economy. And according to surveys, even 12 billion annually was lost to corruption. President Mahama and Dr. Ato Forsen have a simple solution. They said that we are going to scrap some taxes, as we promised. Then the question of how do you meet the shortfalls when you take away those revenue sources? And the answer that the finance minister gave, very profound, was that we ought to stop the bleeding. Because it is not so much about what is coming into the national kitty. It is about how what comes into the kitty is managed. How judiciously is it used? And that is the question that the finance minister ought to answer. So he says that let's stop the bleeding. It means if you were losing 12 billion annually to corruption, under this government, you will not be losing that 12 billion. Now, when you put together your earnings from the bet tax, e-levy, and all the others that have been scrapped, it is not even up to the 12 billion that you lose to corruption. And so don't overburden the Ghanaian people with taxes in the name of raising revenue when what comes into the kitty, you are not able to manage it properly. Then, finance minister spoke about the removal of taxes, and there is this issue of the betting tax. He said there are some problems. There's nothing like a problem. The betting tax, and the finance minister made no mistake. Let me be very emphatic. There was a betting tax of 10% on bet winnings. That has been removed. As we speak today, yesterday in Parliament, the finance minister presented the bills to Parliament, and there was a first reading of it. So he laid before Parliament the bill for the removal, because when these are legislations, and so when you speak about the removal, Parliament must pass a new bill to amend or repeal the existing legislation, which makes Ghanaians pay the e-levy and the betting tax. And so when their former finance minister says they never collected bet tax, it raises lots of questions about those who were managing our economy. Because if the finance minister, the immediate past finance minister, did not know that they were collecting 10% betting tax, it raises questions about whether or not he was in control and he understood the setup. No, but that's what he said.
I think that.
No, but how does it say something? He said that's not what he meant.
Yeah, and then because we don't have all day, our time is almost up.
Yeah.